There are seasons when God works quietly, away from noise, away from applause. Those seasons are sacred, and you have lived through them. You have walked through days where obedience felt invisible, where faith looked like foolishness to others, where silence was your only companion. You prayed without evidence. You endured without applause. You trusted without proof. And there were people who watched you struggle, people who misunderstood your restraint, people who assumed your patience was weakness. They spoke conclusions over you that God never agreed with. But heaven kept a record. Every tear that fell without explanation, every night you chose integrity over shortcuts. Every time you stayed when leaving would have been easier, none of it was wasted. God does not forget faith that endures without witnesses. Now, hear this clearly. The same God who hid you is about to reveal you. Not to elevate your name, but to display His faithfulness. Not to glorify effort, but to honor obedience. This is not a blessing that sneaks in quietly while no one is looking. This is a blessing that arrives with clarity, with weight, with undeniable evidence that God Himself has stepped into your story. When God says He will bless you in front of them all, He is not speaking out of impulse. He is speaking from sovereignty. He is announcing a reversal that no human hand could orchestrate. There are moments when God blesses privately to protect you. And there are moments when God blesses publicly to vindicate truth. This is not about proving anything to people. It is about revealing something about God. There were questions spoken behind closed doors. Why are they still waiting? Why hasn't anything changed? Why would God favor someone like that? God heard every one of them. And rather than answer with arguments, God chose to answer with evidence. The blessing that is coming will speak with a language no debate can. Silence. You must understand the weight of this declaration. God does not say congratulations lightly. That word carries finality. It carries completion. It carries the authority of a promise fulfilled. When God says congratulations, He is announcing that a season of testing has reached its conclusion. He is declaring that endurance has done its work. He's proclaiming that what was delayed was not denied, it was being prepared with precision. God never rushes outcomes because He is never late. He allows time to stretch so character can deepen, so trust can mature, so humility can take root. And when the moment arrives, nothing can stop it. There were times you wondered if obedience was costing you too much. Times you questioned whether doing things God's way was leaving you behind. You watched others advance through shortcuts while you stayed still, anchored by conviction. You could have compromised and moved faster. You could have spoken differently, acted differently, aligned yourself with what was popular rather than what was right, but you didn't. And now God says, tell them congratulations, because what you kept pure is about to be rewarded openly. What you protected in secret is about to be honored in public. This blessing is not an accident of timing. It is a response to alignment. God is not impressed by performance. God responds to surrender. You surrendered when no one was watching. You chose trust when outcomes were uncertain. You believed God's word even when circumstances contradicted it. That kind of faith does not go unnoticed. It activates movement in the unseen that eventually becomes visible in the seen. Heaven moves long before earth notices. And when earth finally sees it, it feels sudden, but it was prepared slowly, carefully, deliberately. There is something deeply unsettling to people when God blesses someone they had already counted out. It challenges assumption. It exposes shallow judgments. It forces a confrontation with the reality that God does not operate according to human metrics. God does not consult popularity. God does not need consensus. God does not follow trends. He chooses, He prepares, and He reveals. And when He reveals, there is no confusion about the source. The blessing carries His signature. You may be tempted to shrink back when the blessing comes. You may feel the urge to minimize it, to explain it away, to make it more comfortable for. Those who doubted you, resist that urge. Humility does not require invisibility. Gratitude does not require denial. When God blesses you in front of them all, your role is not to hide it, is to stand with reverence. Let the blessing speak. Let God's faithfulness be seen. Let the evidence do the work you never had to do. Understand this, God is not elevating you to shame others. He is elevating truth. He's correcting narratives that were built on incomplete information. He is restoring honor to obedience that looked unproductive for too long. Some people will celebrate with you sincerely. Others will be quiet, confused, or uncomfortable. That reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to remain aligned with the God who brought you here. There is a difference between being seen and being exposed. Exposure is what happens when something unprepared is revealed too early. But being seen is what happens when something mature is revealed at the right time. God did not expose you, He cultivated you. He waited until your roots were deep enough to handle visibility. He waited until your identity was anchored in Him, not in applause. Because public blessing without private grounding destroys people. God protects His own by preparing them thoroughly before lifting them visibly. You have been prepared in ways you may not fully recognize yet. The delays sharpened your discernment. The quiet seasons strengthened your hearing. The misunderstandings taught you restraint. Loneliness taught you dependence. These were not punishments, they were preparation. God was building capacity in your capacity to steward favor without arrogance, to receive abundance without losing reverence, to be seen without being consumed by attention. When the blessing unfolds, it will not feel like chaos. It will feel like alignment clicking into place. Things that resisted you before will open without force. Doors that stayed closed despite effort will open with ease, not because you changed tactics, but because timing changed. God's timing does not require strain. When it arrives, it carries a sense of rightness that cannot be manufactured. This is why God says congratulations before you see everything fully manifested. He is inviting you to celebrate in advance, not with pride, but with trust. Celebration is an act of faith when it precedes visible evidence. It declares confidence in God's character, not in circumstances. God is teaching you to respond to His word with joy, not just to outcome, with relief. There were days you survived on nothing but trust. Days when the promise felt distant and the present felt heavy. Days when you questioned whether God remembered you at all. But remembrance was never the issue. Timing was. God sees the whole landscape. He knows what needs to be in place around you, not just within you. He knows which relationships must mature, which environments must shift, which obstacles must move quietly out of the way. A public blessing requires private orchestration across many dimensions you cannot see. When God blesses you in front of them all, it will not be a performance. It will be a revelation. People will see the result, but only God knows the process. They will see the outcome, but not the cost. They will witness the arrival, but not the endurance. And that is as it should be. God alone deserves credit for what He has done in you and through you. Do not mistake visibility for vulnerability. God is not placing you on display without protection. The same God who brings the blessing also sustains it. He does not lift and abandon. He elevates and covers. Your task is to remain attentive, to keep your heart aligned, your posture surrendered, your gratitude active. Blessing is safest when it is continually returned to God as worship. There is also a warning embedded in this moment, and it is spoken with love. Do not rush ahead of God once the door opens. Momentum can tempt you to move faster than wisdom, Favor can tempt you to trust your own judgment more than God's voice. Resist that. The same obedience that carried you through obscurity must carry you through visibility. The same listening posture that sustained you in silence must guide you in abundance. You are stepping into a season where your life becomes a testimony without you saying a word. People will draw conclusions based on what they see. Some will be inspired. Some will be challenged. Some will quietly reconsider what they thought they can. EW about God. Let your life speak gently but clearly. Let integrity remain your language. Let faith remain your foundation. This blessing is not the end of your journey. It is a transition into greater responsibility. God does not bless merely to comfort. He blesses to entrust. What He places in your hands is meant to be stewarded, not hoarded. It is meant to reflect His character, not inflate your identity. You are being trusted with visibility because you learn faithfulness in invisibility. There will be moments when you remember the nights you cried alone, the prayers that felt unanswered, the effort that seemed fruitless. Those memories are not meant to haunt you. They are meant to ground you. They will keep you compassionate. They will keep you patient with others who are still waiting. They will remind you that God's work is often hidden before it is revealed. When people say congratulations, receive it with grace, not as validation of your worth, but as confirmation of God's faithfulness. Let every congratulation redirect your heart upward. Let every acknowledgement deepen your humility. Let every moment of recognition become an opportunity to honor the God who carried you here. God is not just changing your circumstances, He is shifting your atmosphere. What surrounds you is being recalibrated to support what He is doing next. This may feel unfamiliar at first. Favor requires adjustment. Blessing requires wisdom. But you are not entering this season unprepared. God does not send people where His grace cannot sustain them. And as this unfolding continues, understand that God is not merely altering what you have, but redefining how you see. Blessing has a way of sharpening vision. It reveals motives, clarifies priorities, and exposes attachments that were once hidden. God does this not to unsettle you, but to stabilize you. A public blessing requires an inward stillness that is unshaken by reaction, praise, or scrutiny. God is drawing you into a deeper awareness that what sustains you is not what He gives, but who He is. The gift is real, but the presence is greater. The outcome is visible, but the relationship is essential. There will be moments when you feel the weight of expectation settle around you. People will assume strength means immunity. That favor removes vulnerability. But God never promised that blessing would eliminate dependence. In fact, blessing intensifies the need for closeness with Him. You will find yourself returning to prayer, not out of desperation, but out of devotion. Gratitude will become your language. Reverence will become your reflex. You will understand that the same God who opened this door is the only one who can keep it. Open in peace. Do not underestimate the quiet authority God is placing within you. This authority is not loud, not demanding, not aggressive. It is steady. It comes from alignment, not assertion. You will notice that you no longer feel the need to prove yourself. The striving fades when purpose becomes clear. God is teaching you how to rest while moving forward, how to carry responsibility without anxiety, how to walk in visibility without losing intimacy. There will be people who try to reconnect with you once the blessing becomes visible. Some will come with genuine hearts, others with curiosity, others with hidden agendas. Ask God for discernment that is gentle but firm. You're not required to reopen every door that God closed to protect you. Blessing does not obligate you to access. Wisdom is knowing when to welcome and when to guard. God's peace is not negotiable, and anything that threatens it does not deserve unchecked entry. As God establishes you in this new place, you will notice an internal shift. What once excited you may no longer satisfy you. What once felt urgent may now feel unnecessary. This is not loss, it is refinement. God is adjusting your appetites so that you crave what sustains purpose, not what distracts from it. You are being drawn into a maturity where fulfillment comes from alignment rather than accumulation. There is also a responsibility to remain teachable. Blessing can create the illusion of arrival, but God never stops shaping those He loves. Stay open, stay responsive. Let correction remain welcome. Let humility remain active. The blessing does not mean God is finished speaking. It means He trusts you to listen at a deeper level. You may notice that God begins to use your life as a mirror for others. Not through preaching, but through presence. People will observe how you respond under pressure, how you handle abundance, how you remain grounded. Your consistency will speak louder than explanations ever could. This is how God uses lives to quietly redirect hearts without force. Do not be surprised if God asks you to give in ways that stretch you. Blessing reveals capacity. It shows you what you can carry, what you can release, what you can steward. Generosity will no longer feel like sacrifice. It will feel like alignment. When you give from obedience rather than excess, it keeps your heart free. God blesses hands that remain open because open hands can receive without clenching. There will be moments when the memory of your former season returns unexpectedly. Not as pain, but as perspective. You will realize that what once felt like delay was actually protection. God withheld certain things until you could receive them without harm. Timing was mercy. Silence was strategy. Waiting was wisdom. And now, standing where you are, you will thank God not only for what He gave, but for what He refused to give too early. As the blessing becomes established, guard your inner dialogue. Do not let self-doubt creep in disguised as humility. God did not miscalculate when He chose you. He did not overlook your weaknesses. He accounted for them. He is not surprised by your humanity. He works through it. Confidence rooted in God is not arrogance. It is agreement with His word. There may be moments when the blessing feels heavier than you expected. Responsibility often does, but weight does not mean burden. God strengthens before He assigns. He equips before He expands. If He placed this before you, He placed strength within you to sustain it. Return to Him when you feel stretched. Strength is renewed in surrender, not in resistance. You are entering a season where obedience will look different than before. It may require more restraint, more listening, more intentional pauses. The pace may increase, but the posture must remain calm. God is teaching you how to move with precision, not haste. Speed without direction wastes energy. Movement guided by God multiplies impact. Remember that public blessing does not mean constant visibility. God will still draw you into quiet moments, private reflections, hidden recalibrations. Do not resist these invitations. They are not withdrawals. They are refueling. He knows when to pull you aside to preserve your depth. Honor those moments as much as you honor the visible ones. There will be opportunities that look good but are not aligned. Favor attracts options. Not all of them ordained. Learn to discern between what is possible and what is purposeful. God's will often feels narrower than opportunity, but wider than imagination. Choose alignment over expansion, peace over pressure, obedience over applause. And when the day comes that you stand fully in what God promised, let your heart remain soft. Let wonder remain alive. Familiarity can dull reverence if you are not careful. Never lose awe for what God has done. Gratitude keeps the soul awake. Worship keeps the heart anchored. This blessing is not a destination, it is a stewardship. God entrusted you with this moment because He trusted your character before He trusted your capacity. He saw how you handled little, how you responded to delay, how you remained faithful without recognition. This moment is the echo of those choices. So continue forward with courage that is calm, faith that is grounded, and joy that is steady. Let your life remain an offering, your obedience a testimony, your peace a witness. God is faithful, and what He began, He sustains. And when you hear it again, spoken softly or declared, boldly receive it with the same humility you carried through the waiting. Congratulations, not as a finish line, but as confirmation that God's word never returns empty. What He promised, He fulfilled. What He revealed, He established. And what He blesses, He keeps. And now, as the weight of this moment settles into your spirit, recognize that God is also teaching you how to stand without shrinking and without hardening. There is a balance He is forming within you, a quiet confidence that does not need permission, and a tenderness that does not disappear under pressure. This balance is rare, and it is intentional. God is shaping you to be firm without becoming rigid, visible without becoming distant, favored without becoming detached. This is the posture of someone who has learned that strength and surrender are not opposites, but companions. You will notice that your prayers begin to change. They will no longer be driven by urgency alone, but by alignment. You will find yourself asking not only for provision, but for precision. Not only for doors to open, but for clarity on which ones to walk through. God is drawing you into a deeper partnership where obedience is not reactive, but responsive. You are learning to move with Him, not ahead of Him, not behind Him, but in step. There will be moments when God invites you to pause, even while things are going well. This pause is not hesitation, it is wisdom. God knows that momentum can blur discernment if the heart is not anchored. In these pauses, He will remind you that your worth is not measured by output, and your value is not sustained by activity. Rest, when guided by God, is not retreat, it is reign. Forcement. You may also become more aware of the cost of disobedience, not through fear, but through clarity. When alignment is established, misalignment becomes uncomfortable. Choices that once seemed harmless may now feel heavy. This is not condemnation, it is sensitivity. God is sharpening your spirit so you can sense when something pulls you away from His peace. This sensitivity is protection, not restriction. As your life continues to unfold in this light, you will realize that God is not just answering old prayers. He's preparing you for prayers you have not yet learned how to pray. He's expanding your language, your vision, your capacity to believe beyond what you once thought possible. What used to feel like faith will begin to feel like foundation. What once felt risky will begin to feel rooted. This is growth that cannot be rushed and cannot be replicated. There will be times when the blessing challenges your identity. You may ask yourself who you are now, standing where you once only imagined. Let God answer that question. Do not rush to redefine yourself through roles, titles, or outcomes. Identity anchored in God does not fluctuate with seasons. You are the same person who waited, who trusted, who obeyed. The environment has changed, but the calling remains anchored in Him. You'll also learn that silence has new meaning. It is no longer emptiness, it is discernment. You will not feel compelled to respond to every opinion or justify every decision. God is T. Aching you that peace does not require explanation. When your life aligns with His will, clarity eventually speaks for itself. Silence, when chosen wisely, becomes a language of confidence. There may be moments when the blessing feels misunderstood. People may see the result without understanding the restraint it required. Let that be. Understanding is not a prerequisite for fulfillment. God did not assign you the task of convincing, He assigned you the responsibility of obeying. Your life does not need to be defended when it is aligned. As God continues to establish what He has begun, you will sense a deeper responsibility to guard your inner life. Thoughts matter here. Motives matter here. God is not just interested in what you do, but in how you do it and why. Purity of heart becomes increasingly important as influence expands. What you tolerate internally eventually shapes what you manifest externally. There will be a new kind of courage required in this season, the courage to remain soft in a world that expects hardness, the courage to stay faithful when compromise is rewarded, the courage to listen when noise is constant. This courage is not dramatic, it is disciplined. It is formed in daily choices that no one applauds but God honors. You may find that God invites you into responsibility that feels beyond your strength. When this happens, do not panic. God often reveals assignments before revealing full capacity. He does this so you learn to depend on Him rather and on confidence. Strength grows in obedience. Capacity expands in surrender. You do not need to feel ready. You need to remain willing. As time passes, you will see how carefully God protected you from arriving here too soon. Immaturity would have turned favor into pressure. Insecurity would have turned opportunity into anxiety. But God waited until your roots were deep enough to hold what your hands now carry. This is not delay. It is mercy revealed in hindsight. Let gratitude remain active, not occasional. Gratitude keeps the heart aligned and the spirit receptive. It reminds you that everything you steward is entrusted, not owned. God resists entitlement, but He honors thankfulness. When gratitude leads, pride has no room to grow. You are also learning that blessing does not eliminate opposition, it clarifies it. Resistance may come in subtler forms now: distractions, subtle compromises, misplaced priorities. Stay alert. Not anxious, but aware. God's guidance is constant when the heart remains attentive. And when uncertainty arises, as it sometimes will, return to what you know. God is faithful. He does not contradict Himself. He does not abandon what He establishes. If He brought you here, He will instruct you here. If He elevated you, He will sustain you. Trust does not expire with fulfillment, it deepens. Allow joy to remain uncomplicated. Do not dilute it with fear of loss or pressure to maintain. Joy rooted in God is not fragile. It is resilient. It does not depend on end circumstances remaining perfect. It flows from knowing who holds them. As this chapter continues, remember that the greatest evidence of blessing is not what surrounds you, but what remains within you. Peace that endures, integrity that holds, faith that listens. These are the markers of a life kept by God. And in this unfolding, there will come a moment when you realize that God is not only blessing what is visible, but healing what was hidden. Some wounds were never addressed because survival required strength, not reflection. But now, in this steadier place, God gently brings those places into His light. Not to reopen them, but to restore them. Blessing creates space for healing, because fear no longer dictates your pace. God is not interested in merely advancing you. He is committed to make you whole. You may notice that your reactions begin to change. Situations that once triggered defensiveness no longer have the same power. Words that once unsettled you now pass through without attachment. This is not emotional distance. It is spiritual maturity. God is teaching you how to remain anchored when circumstances fluctuate, how to respond from truth rather than impulse. Stability becomes your testimony. There is also a quiet authority forming in how you listen. You are no longer hurried to speak or quick to conclude. God sharpens discernment by slowing the soul. You begin to hear beneath the surface, to sense when something carries peace and when it carries pressure. His awareness is not suspicion, it is stewardship. God entrusts clarity to those who honor it. As the blessing continues to unfold, you may feel a deeper reverence for timing. You will no longer rush outcomes or force results. You have seen what happens when God moves in His time. It leaves no residue of regret. Patience, once learned through hardship, now becomes wisdom practiced through choice. Waiting is no longer punishment, it is partnership. There will be seasons within this season, moments of acceleration, followed by moments of quiet reinforcement. Do not mistake the quieter days for stagnation. God often strengthens foundations while nothing appears to change. What He builds beneath the surface determines how high something can rise without collapsing. Trust the unseen work as much as you celebrate the visible. You may find that God asks you to release things that once felt essential, not because they were wrong, but because they are no longer necessary. Growth requires letting go, even of good things, to make room for what is aligned now. God never removes without intention. What He asks you to release is always replaced with something more fitting for where He is leading you. There will also be moments when gratitude overwhelms you unexpectedly, not because of what you gained, but because of what you survived. You will remember how close you came to giving up, to settling, to turning back. And in that remembrance, worship will rise naturally. Gratitude rooted in R. Remembrance keeps the heart grounded in humility. As influence increases, God will refine your inner compass. Decisions will no longer be made based on urgency or appearance, but on resonance with His peace. You will learn that not every good opportunity is God's invitation. Discernment becomes less about analysis and more about alignment. When something is from God, it settles the spirit, even if it stretches the faith. You may also experience moments of holy discomfort when success feels incomplete without significance. This is God expanding your sense of purpose. He is teaching you that fulfillment is not found in achievement alone, but in obedience that impacts beyond yourself. Purpose matures when it moves from personal victory to faithful stewardship. In this season, God will also guard you from isolation disguised as protection. While some distance is necessary, complete withdrawal is not His design. He will teach you how to remain open without being exposed, connected without being drained. Balance is learned through dependence on Him, not through rigid boundaries built up of fear. There will be days when the weight of responsibility feels heavy again. When that happens, return to stillness. God does not require you to carry tomorrow today. Grace is given daily, not in advance. When you stay present, strength remains sufficient. You will also begin to recognize how deeply God values faithfulness over spectacle. Quiet obedience continues to move heaven even when no one applauds. Public blessing never replaces private devotion. It reveals the fruit of it. Keep choosing what honors God when it costs you comfort. That choice remains sacred in every season. As time goes on, you will notice that your confidence is no longer loud. It does not announce itself. It simply stands. This confidence is born from knowing who sustains you. You no longer fear being misunderstood because your identity is no longer negotiated through approval. God, as voice, has become the loudest one you listen to. There may come moments when you feel led to speak less and pray more. Honor that leading. God sometimes advances His work through silence rather than declaration. Not every victory needs to be narrated. Some are meant to be lived quietly and recognized only in their fruit. In this place of blessing, temptation may appear refined rather than obvious. It may invite you to self-sufficiency, to subtle pride, to independence from prayer. Remain watchful. Dependence on God is not weakness, it is wisdom. The moment you think you no longer need Him is the moment alignment begins to drift. Let joy remain rooted, not reactive. Let peace remain intentional, not conditional. God as presence is not fragile, it is constant. When circumstances fluctuate, return inward to where He meets you consistently. That place does not change with seasons. And as you continue walking forward, understand this deeply. God did not bless you to prove a point. He blessed you to reveal His nature, faithful, precise, intentional, good. Your life is becoming a quiet declaration that God keeps His word, even when the journey is long, even when the process is hidden. So remain attentive, remain teachable, remain anchored. Let your life continue to reflect trust rather than urgency, obedience rather than noise, reverence rather than display. God has spoken over you, and His word stands. This is not the end of the message. It is the continuation of a calling unfolding. And as you walk it out, let your spirit remain settled in this truth. What God establishes, no season can undo. What He blesses openly, He sustains faithfully. And what He leads you into, He walks with you through every step without fail. And now as this message reaches its final breath, let it settle not as an ending, but as an anchoring truth. God does not speak to excite you for a moment. He speaks to establish you for a lifetime. What has been released over you is not fragile. It is not seasonal high. It is not dependent on conditions remaining perfect. It is rooted in the unchanging nature of God Himself. And because it comes from Him, it carries permanence, intention, and divine authority. There will be days ahead when emotions fluctuate and circumstances test your steadiness. In those moments, return to what God has already declared. Do not renegotiate what heaven has settled. Faith is not proven when everything aligns easily. It is proven when you stand firm without needing reassurance. God's word over you does not require constant confirmation. It requires trust. Let your life now move at the pace of obedience, not urgency. You do not need to chase what God has already assigned. What belongs to you will recognize you in the right time. What God has ordained cannot miss you, and what is not from Him cannot sustain you. Rest in that certainty. Peace is your inheritance, not something you must earn. As you walk forward, let your spirit remain soft and your resolve remains strong. Do not allow familiarity with blessing to dull reverence. Do not allow responsibility to replace wonder. Stay aware that every step you take is still guided, still covered, still sustained. God has not finished speaking. He has simply begun revealing. And when you reflect on where you came from, do so without regret or bitterness. The past was not wasted, it was formative. Every delay shaped discernment. Every quiet season strengthened trust. Every unanswered prayer prepared you to recognize fulfillment when it arrived. Nothing was lost. Everything was woven. Carry this season with gratitude that is steady, not loud. With confidence that is rooted, not defensive. With faith that lists ends more than it speaks. Your life does not need to announce God's faithfulness. It demonstrates it simply by continuing in alignment. And if ever you feel unsure, overwhelmed, or tempted to doubt, return to this truth. God does not congratulate what He cannot sustain. He does not elevate what He will not protect. He does not promise what He will not fulfill. What He has spoken over you stands beyond opinion, beyond circumstance, beyond time. So walk on grounded, aware, and unafraid. Let obedience remain your language. Let trust remain your posture. Let reverence remain your covering. God has gone before you. God walks beside you. And God remains faithful behind you, guarding what He has established. And this is how it concludes, not with noise, not with striving, but with certainty. What God has begun, He will complete. What God has blessed, He will preserve. What God has spoken, He will uphold. Congratulations, not as a momentary word, but as a lasting reality. Listen, before you scroll, before your mind argues, before your heart tries to protect itself, listen. This is not comfort speaking to you. This is not imagination whispering. This is not fear dressed up as faith. This is a warning born out of mercy. God told me to warn you, because you are standing on the edge of a financial shift so massive that your old habits cannot survive where you are going. You are about to be extremely rich in 6 movements of divine alignment. Rich beyond survival, beyond relief, beyond what you secretly rehearsed in prayer. But if you do not stop doing this one thing, the very blessing meant to lift you will crush you. Right now, something inside you feels exposed. That is not condemnation, that is illumination. God does not expose to shame, He exposes to save. And He would not interrupt your life like this if what was coming were small. He does not send warnings before ordinary days. He sends warnings before transfers, before acceleration, before responsibility expands faster than your character has been trained to carry. This is not about money alone. Money is only the language you understand right now. What is coming is influence, weight, reach, and authority. And wealth is simply the visible proof of an invisible trust. You have prayed for increase, but you have also negotiated with disobedience. You have asked God to enlarge your territory while quietly holding on to patterns that belong to scarcity. You have asked for overflow while rehearsing fear. You have asked for abundance while continuing behaviors that leak power. And God, in His mercy, is stopping you before you arrive wealthy but broken, rich but empty, prosperous but ashamed. The danger is not that you will not become rich. The danger is that you will. The danger is arriving at abundance with a mindset trained in survival, a heart trained in self-protection, and hands trained in control instead of stewardship. That combination destroys people quietly. It does not explode, it corrodes. And God refuses to let you succeed into ruin. There is something you must stop doing, and it is not what you think. It is not merely spending. It is not merely doubt. It is not merely sin in the obvious sense. What you must stop is treating provision as proof of safety instead of treating God as your source. You have learned to trust what you can count, what you can see, what you can touch. You have learned to relax only when numbers align. You have learned to feel secure only when accounts are full. That mindset was understandable when you were surviving. It will be fatal when you are wealthy. God is about to bless you in 6 distinct shifts, 6 doors opening in alignment, 6 streams converging, 6 confirmations arriving from directions you did not manufacture. But He will not pour new wine into a vessel that still worships the container. You must stop confusing money with peace. Money will magnify what already lives in you. If fear lives in you, money will make it louder. If control lives in you, money will make it harsher. If pride lives in you, money will make it blind. This warning is proof that God trusts you. He corrects what He plans to elevate. He confronts what He intends to expand. And right now, He is asking you to let go of something subtle but deadly. The habit of self-reliance masquerading as wisdom. You learn to depend on yourself because you had to. You learn to calculate because no one caught you when you fell. You learn to overthink because uncertainty hurt you. God is not angry about how you survived. He is asking you not to carry survival into abundance. What saved you in lack will sabotage you in plenty. There is a way you have been speaking about money that must stop. You speak as if it is fragile. You speak as if it can leave at any moment. You speak as if you must grip it tightly or lose it. Those words are seeds, and they are training your spirit to expect loss even while praying for gain. God does not rebuke you for wanting wealth. He rebukes the fear you wrapped around it. You are about to become extremely rich, but wealth in fearful hands becomes a prison. God does not want to give you a golden cage. He wants to give you a platform for purpose, a tool for impact, a testimony that restores your dignity and heals your lineage. That is why He is warning you now. There is also something else you must stop doing. Stop shrinking yourself when God enlarges you. You have a habit of downplaying your vision so others feel comfortable. You have a habit of apologizing for your ambition. You have a habit of hiding your expectations so disappointment does not embarrass you. That humility was protection when you were vulnerable. It becomes disobedience when God calls you forward. Wealth is coming because assignment is coming. Provision follows purpose. God does not fund ego, He funds obedience. And you are being prepared to steward more than money. You are being prepared to steward opportunity, people, systems, and influence. If you continue to see yourself as small, you will mishandle big things. God says, stop rehearsing old versions of yourself. Stop identifying with who you were when you prayed for rescue. You are not asking for rescue anymore. You are stepping into responsibility. And responsibility requires clarity, courage, and alignment. There is a silence God is asking you to practice. Not secrecy rooted in fear, but silence rooted in trust. Stop announcing every move before it is finished. Stop inviting opinions into assignments God did not give them. Not everyone who loves you is authorized to speak into what God is building through you. Wealth attracts voices. Discernment must precede disclosure. You are about to be extremely rich in 6 divine confirmations, and with that richness will come attention. Attention is dangerous when your identity is still negotiating approval. God is calling you to anchor your worth in obedience, not applause. If you do not stop looking sideways for validation, you will make expensive compromises to keep people comfortable. This is also a call to stop delaying obedience under the disguise of preparation. You have been saying soon to instructions God already confirmed. You have been waiting for perfect timing when God was waiting for your yes. Wealth does not respond to hesitation. It responds to alignment. God is not rushing you, but He is warning you. Procrastination will cost you momentum. What is coming has timing attached to it. Windows open and close. Streams converge and then move. You are not late, but you must stop lingering. There is a purity God is protecting. Money does not corrupt, exposure does. When hidden wounds meet public success, they surface violently. That is why God is dealing with your inner world now. Let Him heal the insecurity that fears being seen. Let Him heal the wound that equates worth with productivity. Let Him heal the voice that says rest must be earned. Stop equating exhaustion with faithfulness. Burnout is not a badge of honor. God is about to bless you in ways that require longevity, not intensity. You cannot sprint into stewardship meant for decades. Learn to rest without guilt. Learn to receive without apology. Learn to trust without controlling every outcome. There is generosity God wants to flow through you, but generosity born from guilt will drain you. He is teaching you to give from obedience, not pressure, to bless without proving anything, to release without fear of lack. Wealth must flow or it rots, but flow requires trust. You are being warned because you are chosen, not chosen for privilege, but chosen for responsibility. God is about to trust you with resources that can heal, restore, and rebuild. But first, He is asking you to stop treating money as your shield and start treating Him as your security. There will be moments soon where opportunities come quickly. Decisions will need to be made without overanalysis. This is why you must stop leaning on fear-based logic. Wisdom does not panic. Faith does not rush, but it does move. Learn to recognize peace, not urgency, as your signal. Do not confuse caution with obedience. Sometimes caution sin is just fear wearing discipline's clothing. God will guide you clearly, but only if you stop drowning His voice with internal noise. You are not being tested to see if you deserve wealth. You are being trained to see if you can steward it without losing your soul. The warning is proof of nearness. God warns those He walks with. When the first shift happens, you will be tempted to say, "This is enough." That is another thing you must stop. Do not settle early. Partial obedience produces partial outcomes. God's plan unfolds in sequence. Stay faithful through each movement. Do not build permanent structures in temporary seasons. You will also be tempted to rescue everyone. Stop that. You are not a savior. You are a steward. Help where God directs, not where guilt pushes. Wealth with boundaries is healthy. Wealth without boundaries is chaos. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming clear. Clarity protects compassion from being exploited. God says stop fearing loss more than you desire obedience. Fear of loss will make you compromise alignment to preserve comfort. Obedience may cost you familiarity, but it will secure your future. You are about to be extremely rich, not just in money, but in clarity, peace, authority, and purpose. The wealth you see will be the echo of the alignment you do not see. This warning is not heavy, it is loving. It is God standing in front of you, our future, saying, "I am taking you there safely." There is a sacred tension you are learning to live in now, the space between promise and manifestation. Many lose their posture in this space. Some grow impatient and force doors. Others grow fearful and retreat. God is teaching you to stand without striving, to move without panic, to wait without doubting. This posture is not passive, it is powerful. It signals trust that does not need proof every hour. When wealth approaches, the greatest temptation is to grasp. God is teaching you to open your hands instead. What arrives in open hands stays. What is clenched in fear slips away. Pay attention to how God has been training your discernment. He has been sharpening your sensitivity, not so you become suspicious, but so you become precise. Soon, opportunities will wear familiar faces. Some will look good but carry hidden costs. Others will look small but hold massive impact. Money often disguises itself as urgency. God speaks through peace. If you feel rushed, pressured, or internally pause. The blessing of God never needs manipulation to arrive on time. There is a cleansing happening in your desires. You are beginning to want differently. What once excited you no longer satisfies you. What once felt impressive now feels shallow. This is not boredom, it is elevation. God is lifting your appetite so you do not misuse what He gives. When desire matures, stewardship becomes natural. You will not need to be convinced to handle wealth. Wisely, wisdom will feel like your native language. Understand this. Wealth does not mean ease. It means responsibility at a higher altitude. The air is thinner there. Fewer voices belong there. That is why God has been teaching you to be comfortable with solitude. Silence is not emptiness, it is preparation. In quiet moments, God strengthens your inner spine so external pressure cannot bend you. Do not fear the narrowing of your circle. God often reduces noise before He releases clarity. You will soon notice that your prayers change. You will pray less for provision and more for precision. Less for rescue and more for guidance. This shift is evidence that you are maturing. God is not interested in keeping you dependent. He is interested in making you trustworthy. Trustworthy people do not need constant reassurance. They need alignment. And alignment is what heaven responds to. There will be moments when obedience feels costly, when doing the right thing seems to delay progress, when integrity feels slower than compromise. Do not be deceived by speed. God measures success by sustainability. Shortcuts collapse under the weight of expansion. What God builds through you must last longer than excitement. It must outlive trends, seasons, and applause. That kind of wealth is forged, not rushed. God is also teaching you to separate your identity from outcomes. Wins will no longer inflate you. Losses will no longer define you. This emotional stability is critical where you are going. Markets fluctuate. Opinions shift. Influence rises and falls. But the one anchored in God remains steady. Steadiness is rare. That rarity is why it is rewarded. You may feel moments of holy discomfort, times when God disrupts what feels familiar. Do not resist this. Comfort can quietly become captivity. God disrupts to relocate you into greater freedom. When He asks you to release something that still works, it is because He sees what will work better. Trust the vision you cannot yet articulate. Notice how God has been purifying your motives. You are learning to do the right thing even when no one notices. This is not invisibility, it is training. Public stewardship is built in private faithfulness. God always tests in small arenas before expanding the stage. The wealth coming to you will not be fragile because it will be rooted in character, not hype. There is also a joy returning to you, a deep, quiet joy not tied to circumstances. This joy will protect you. It will keep you from chasing pleasure to fill empty places. When joy is anchored in God, money becomes a tool, not a substitute. You will enjoy wealth without being owned by it. That freedom is rare and it is holy. God is reminding you that obedience is not a transaction, it is a relationship. You are not obeying to earn favor, you are obeying because you are aligned. Favor flows naturally where alignment exists. When wealth comes, you will recognize it not as a reward, but as a responsibility entrusted to you by a God who knows your heart. There will be a moment soon when you look back and realize this warning saved you. You will see how close you were to carrying old patterns into a new season. Gratitude will rise in you, not for the delay, but for the correction. Correction is proof of intimacy. God corrects those He walks with closely. There will come a moment when you realize the ground beneath you feels different. The same steps, the same rhythm, but a deeper firmness under your feet. That is not coincidence. That is God stabilizing you for elevation. Before He increases your reach, He strengthens your roots. Before He expands your influence, He deepens your humility. This is why you have felt stretched in private while nothing obvious changed in public. Foundations are always built where eyes do not look. God is teaching you how to hear Him beyond emotion. In earlier seasons, feelings guided you. Now discernment must lead. Wealth will amplify emotion if it is not anchored in truth. God wants you steady when excitement rises and calm when pressure comes. Emotional mastery is spiritual maturity. It keeps you from reacting when you are meant to respond. It keeps you from speaking when silence would protect you. It keeps you from acting when waiting would preserve you. You are also learning the discipline of gratitude before manifestation. Gratitude is not denial of desire. It is alignment with trust. When you thank God in advance, you declare confidence in His character rather than control over outcomes. This post, you unlocks peace that does not depend on timing. And peace, more than excitement, is the environment where lasting wealth grows. There is a sacred clarity entering your decision-making. You are no longer impressed easily. You are no longer moved by appearances alone. God has trained your eye to see beneath the surface. This will protect you from deals that look profitable but cost you peace. It will guide you toward paths that seem slower but are fortified by integrity. Integrity always outlasts opportunity when opportunity is not aligned. God is also shifting how you define success. It is no longer just accumulation. It is sustainability. It is legacy. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you did not betray your values to advance your position. This redefinition is critical. Without it, wealth becomes noisy. With it, wealth becomes meaningful. You may notice that certain doors close without explanation. Do not mourn them. Some doors close because God refuses to let you enter spaces that would drain you. Protection often feels like loss until you see what you were spared from. Trust the doors that shut as much as the ones that open. Both are guided by the same hand. There is also a refining happening in how you speak about yourself. God is removing exaggerated humility and exaggerated confidence alike. He is teaching you to speak truthfully, neither shrinking nor boasting. Truth carries authority without effort. When you speak from alignment, your words will not need decoration. They will carry weight because they are anchored in reality and faith. Soon, you will be entrusted with decisions that affect more than you. This is why God has been training you to listen deeply. Leadership without listening becomes dangerous when wealth is involved. Listening keeps power accountable. Listening keeps influence human. Listening keeps success from becoming isolating. You are not meant to walk this next season with tension in your chest. God is inviting you into a rhythm where trust replaces strain. This does not mean challenges disappear. It means fear no longer dominates. When fear is removed from the driver's seat, wisdom navigates clearly, and wisdom attracts provision naturally. There will be moments when generosity rises unexpectedly in your heart. Do not suppress it. God often uses generosity to keep wealth flowing rather than stagnating. But generosity must remain spirit-led, not emotion-driven. You are learning to give with joy, not obligation, to release without resentment, to bless without losing balance. This discernment will preserve both your resources and your peace. God is also teaching you patience with process. Wealth that arrives without patience often leaves without warning. Patience anchors blessing. It gives you time to grow into what you receive. You are not being slowed down, you are being fortified. Pay attention to how your confidence is changing. It is quieter now, less performative, more settled. This confidence does not need validation. It knows where it stands. This is the confidence that can hold wealth without being consumed by it. This is the confidence God trusts. There will come a day when you realize you are no longer anxious about the future. Not because you know every detail, but because you trust the one guiding you. That trust will be more valuable than any number attached to your name. It will allow you to sleep in abundance and remain calm in uncertainty. God is not just preparing you to receive wealth. He is preparing you to remain whole while carrying it. Wholeness is the true miracle. Money can be lost and regained. Peace, once broken, is harder to restore. God is guarding your peace fiercely. There is a deeper trust God is cultivating in you now, a trust that is not loud, not desperate, not dramatic. It is calm, rooted, and immovable. This kind of trust does not ask for constant signs. It recognizes God's hand even in ordinary moments. When wealth draws near, ordinary moments become the testing ground. How you treat people when nothing is being announced matters. How you honor God when no one is watching matters. Consistency is the language God uses to measure readiness. You are being trained to carry silence without insecurity. Soon there will be seasons where God does not explain everything He is doing. Not because He is distant, but because you are mature enough to walk without constant reassurance. Wealth comes with seasons of misunderstanding. People will not always know your motives, your methods, or your obedience. If your peace depends on being understood, this season will trouble you. If your peace depends on God, it will strengthen you. God is also healing your relationship with time. You are learning that delay is not denial, and speed is not favor. Divine timing carries protection within it. When something arrives too early, it demands what you have not yet grown. When it arrives on time, it fits without strain. What God is bringing in to your life will fit you, not because it is small, but because you are ready. There will be moments when you feel the weight of responsibility before you see the reward. This weight is not meant to burden you, it is meant to anchor you. Responsibility keeps wealth from becoming reckless. It reminds you that what you carry is not only for enjoyment, but for impact. God entrusts weight to those who can carry it without complaining. You are also learning restraint, a quiet power many overlook. Restraint protects you from reacting to provocation. It keeps you from proving yourself unnecessarily. It allows God to defend you instead of you defending yourself in coming seasons. Restraint will save you from expensive mistakes. Silence will protect your strategy. Patience will protect your resources. Discernment will protect your peace. God is refining your courage. Not the courage that shouts, but the courage that stands firm when obedience feels lonely. There will be times when the right decision costs you popularity. Let it. God does not reward consensus, He rewards faithfulness. What He is building through you cannot be sustained by approval alone. Notice how your prayers are becoming simpler. Less explaining, less convincing, more listening. This is intimacy. God already knows what you need. He is drawing you into agreement, not negotiation. Agreement releases flow. Negotiation creates friction. Wealth moves easily where agreement exists. There is a humility God is preserving in you. Not the humility that hides, but the humility that honors. You are learning to acknowledge God openly without using His name to control outcomes. This reverence will keep your success clean. It will keep your influence credible. People will sense something different about how you carry what you have, and that difference will open doors no money could force. God is also teaching you to forgive without reopening wounds. Unforgiveness poisons prosperity. It keeps you tied to past versions of yourself. Release is not approval of harm. It is refusal to carry what does not belong in your future. Wealth magnifies what remains unresolved. God is resolving it now so it does not surface later. You may feel moments of holy anticipation, a quiet knowing that something is near. Do not rush it. Anticipation is meant to prepare, not to pressure. Let it sharpen your focus, not your anxiety. God is never late, and He is never careless. What He brings will arrive with clarity, not confusion. There is a generosity of spirit God is cultivating alongside financial increase. You are learning to celebrate others without comparison. Comparison contaminates joy. Joy protects perspective. When you can celebrate without envy, you are free. Free people handle wealth lightly and wisely. God is shaping your legacy thinking. You are no longer just asking what benefits you now, but what outlives you later. This shift changes how you make decisions. It slows impulsiveness. It strengthens discernment. NT. It aligns you with eternity rather than immediacy. Soon, you will notice that fear no longer motivates you. Decisions will be made from conviction, not anxiety. Conviction creates clarity. Anxiety creates noise. God speaks clearly to those who are not driven by fear. You are being prepared to walk through abundance without losing reverence. Reverence keeps success from becoming entitlement. It keeps gratitude alive. It keeps your heart soft even when your influence grows. And when the wealth comes, because it will, you will recognize that the greatest gift was not the provision itself, but the transformation that allowed you to carry it well. You will look back at this season and understand why God insisted on depth before display, alignment before acceleration, and obedience before overflow. You are standing on the edge of a transformation that will redefine everything you thought possible. And yet God is reminding you, do not move forward carelessly. Do not assume that abundant erases responsibility. Do not let excitement outpace wisdom. The blessing that is coming will demand alignment at a level deeper than you have experienced. It will require vigilance over your heart, discipline over your habits, and obedience that does not bend to convenience. The wealth is visible, but the test is invisible. What God is measuring now is not your ability to receive money, but your ability to carry it without being consumed by it. There is a refinement in your perception that must happen before doors open. You will begin to see opportunities for what they truly are. Some are gifts, some are traps disguised as blessings, some are lessons wrapped in delay. God is training your eye to discern the difference. What appears urgent is often a distraction. What appears minor may carry eternal weight. Learning to perceive like this is part of the blessing itself. For wisdom is the compass that sustains prosperity. You are being called to protect the integrity of your intention. NS. Every action, every word, every thought in this coming season carries weight beyond the moment. Money multiplies influence, but influence amplifies character. If your motives are unresolved, wealth will magnify them. If your vision is unclear, opportunity will become a liability. God is pruning the hidden corners of your life so that what rises to the surface is not only profitable, but purposeful. There is a stillness God is calling you into, a quiet authority that does not demand recognition. This stillness is not passivity. It is the presence of someone rooted in understanding, someone who knows that true power is aligned, not forced. In stillness, God can speak, and in listening, you will move with precision. You will find that doors that once required struggle now open with ease. You will find that decisions that once caused anxiety now produce confidence. That is the fruit of alignment. Notice how your understanding of fear is changing. Fear is no longer a tyrant, but a teak. It signals where trust has not yet matured. Each time you choose obedience over fear, you grow stronger. Each time you embrace God's guidance instead of the impulses of insecurity, you are prepared to steward more than just resources. You are prepared to steward influence, impact, and legacy. There is a maturity God is cultivating in your relationships. You will begin to see that not every voice deserves space in your life. Some advice, some opinions, some counsel, even when delivered with love, are distractions from divine direction. God is teaching you discernment in connection, to invest in those who contribute to your purpose, and to release those who dilute it. In doing so, you are not rejecting people, you are protecting your destiny. You are being trained to operate with integrity in the unseen spaces. God sees the choices you make when no one is watching, the restraint, the honesty, the patience. These choices define how the blessing will manifest. He is building a foundation in character so that what rises is not fragile, flashy, or fleeting, but resilient, reliable, and righteous. You may feel moments of isolation in this season. Do not despair. God often prepares those He is about to exalt in solitude. Solitude strengthens judgment, deepens faith, and clarifies vision. While the world chases noise and approval, you are learning to anchor in what lasts, the voice of God. When wealth comes, you will not be dependent on praise or validation because your identity is already secured. There is a generosity that God is shaping within you. A generosity not tied to wealth yet, but to spirit. You will begin to give without anticipation of return, to bless without expecting acknowledgement, to serve without personal gain. This generosity will shape the character needed to handle abundance wisely. Wealth amplifies generosity, but generosity must exist before wealth, or it will be corrupted by self-interest. God is teaching you endurance. Not endurance of effort alone, but endurance of spirit. Seasons of waiting, preparation, correction, and purification may feel long, but they are creating resilience that cannot be rushed. Wealth that arrives before endurance is tested often vanishes under pressure. The blessing you are about to receive will find you stable because He has been preparing you for it quietly, persistently, and deliberately. And finally, there is a joy returning to your heart, a joy that is not superficial or conditional. This joy will carry you through challenges, protect you from envy, and allow you to celebrate without comparison. When you step into abundance, this joy will safeguard your peace and ensure that wealth serves life, not the other way around. So continue walking in vigilance, humility, and faith. Let your obedience be consistent, your discernment sharp, your heart open. Let God complete the work He began in you. Let every lesson, every correction, every moment of preparation culminate in readiness for what is coming. What approaches is not random. It is not accidental. It is meticulously prepared, divinely orchestrated, and perfectly timed. And because you have been trained in alignment, discernment, and faith, you will enter it fully equipped, not just to receive, but to steward, to influence, and to glorify the one who called you. Stay vigilant, stay faithful, stay anchored. Your moment of elevation is coming, and when it arrives, you will be ready to stand without fear, to carry without compromise, and to walk without regret, because God has prepared you for this, and nothing He has started in you will fail. Now, hear this clearly. The warning has done its work. The preparation has done its work, and the refinement within you has done its work. What is coming is not by chance, not by luck, not by your effort alone. It is the deliberate, sovereign, and perfect orchestration of God. You are being elevated not simply to receive wealth, but to carry it with wisdom, integrity, and purpose. You are being positioned to impact, to bless, to influence, and to glorify Him through what He entrusts to your hands. Do not despise the lessons. Do not resist the refining. Do not allow fear, doubt, or impatience to weaken what God has cultivated in you. Everything you have endured, everything you have learned, every trial, delay, and moment of discipline has been creating a vessel fit for abundance. And when it arrives, you will recognize that the true blessing is not the wealth itself, but the transformation of your heart, your character, and your faith along the way. Stand firm in trust, stand firm in obedience, stand firm in alignment with the one who called you. Let your spirit remain teachable, your heart remain humble, and your focus remain unwavering. The doors are opening, the streams are converging, the 6 movements of divine blessing are about to manifest in your life. Receive it with gratitude, steward it with integrity, walk in it with faith, and always remember, it is not your strength that carries the blessing, it is God's. He has prepared you. He has warned you, and now He is ready to honor your obedience with abundance that will exceed every expectation. This is your moment. Step into it fully, step into it wisely, step into it faithfully, because the one who promised is faithful, and nothing He has begun in you will ever fail. And know this, what God is bringing cannot be measured by numbers alone. It will touch your soul, your family, your legacy, and the lives around you in ways you cannot yet see. This is not fleeting wealth, it is divine positioning. It is a transfer of authority, influence, and provision, all perfectly timed, all perfectly orchestrated. The world may celebrate the abundance, but God celebrates the obedience, the faithfulness, and the alignment that brought it forth. So rise with courage, walk with clarity, speak with integrity, guard your heart, protect your vision, and anchor your trust in Him alone. Let every action, every word, every choice be guided by His wisdom. Let gratitude be your posture, discernment your practice, and faith your compass. The blessing is near. The doors are opening. The chains of delay and limitation are falling away. Step forward boldly, because God is already there, waiting to meet you with the fullness He promised. This is your season. This is your shift. This is your divine elevation. Receive it, steward it, and honor Him with every fiber of your being, because He has prepared you, and nothing that belongs to Him will fail in your hands. Your moment has arrived. Stand firm, walk faithfully, and embrace the abundance God has ordained for you. It is time. There are moments when God is silent. And there are moments when His silence is actually movement. Many people misunderstand this. They think nothing is happening because nothing is loud. But wealth from God is never rushed. It is released with precision. Right now, God is not asking you to chase money. He is asking you to recognize the signs that He is already ahead of you, arranging pathways you could never create on your own. What you are about to hear is not theory. It is spiritual truth that pierces the heart and awakens discernment, because when God opens doors of wealth, He always leaves evidence for those who are paying attention. The first sign is not external at all. It is internal. and it often confuses people. God begins to disturb your comfort before He expands your capacity. You may find yourself dissatisfied with what once felt acceptable. Not ungrateful, not bitter, but deeply aware that you no longer fit where you are. The routines that used to feel safe now feel restrictive. The limits you once tolerated now feel unbearable. This is not rebellion. This is not pride. This is God enlarging your inner world so your outer world can eventually match it. Wealth requires room. If God were to pour increase into a small mindset, it would destroy you. So He stretches your vision first. He causes you to see beyond survival and into stewardship. You begin to think differently about resources, time, responsibility, and impact. This discomfort is holy. It is God saying, where you are has served its purpose, but it cannot contain what is coming. When this stirring begins, many people panic and try to silence it. They tell themselves to be practical, to stay realistic, to lower expectations. But God does not awaken hunger without intention. He does not expose you to desire without already preparing provision. The discomfort is not a sign of lack. It is a sign of transition. Wealth doors open only for those willing to move when God's signals change. If you feel this inner unrest, do not suppress it. Pray into it. Sit with God in it. Ask Him not to remove it, but to clarify it. This is the sound of chains loosening before hands are filled. The second sign is equally unsettling, yet deeply purposeful. God begins to close doors you did not expect to lose. Opportunities dry up. Relationships shift. Income streams become unstable. What once flowed easily now requires effort or disappears altogether. At first, this feels like loss, even failure. But God never removes without intention to replace. He closes lesser doors to protect you from missing greater ones. If everything remained comfortable, you would never step into the unfamiliar territory where wealth often waits. God is not punishing you. He is pruning your dependency on systems that cannot carry you into the next season. This is where trust is refined. Many people turn back here. They interpret the closing of doors as rejection. But in the spiritual realm, closed doors are often redirection. God is preventing you from investing your strength into places that have already reached their ceiling. Wealth requires movement, and movement requires release. When God shuts a door, it is not to trap you, it is to free you. He is teaching you to rely on His leading rather than your history. If something has ended recently and you cannot understand why, resist the urge to reopen it. Ask God what it made room for. He does not empty hands without planning to fill them differently. The third sign is subtle but powerful. God sharpens your discernment around money and opportunity. You begin to see clearly what drains you and what multiplies you. Things that once excited you now feel wrong. Deals that look good on the surface leave your spirit unsettled. At the same time, small ideas, quiet impressions, or unexpected paths begin to carry weight. This is God training your senses. Wealth from God is not built on impulse, it is built on obedience. He teaches you when to say no, even when it costs you in the short term, because He sees the long-term harvest. This discernment often isolates you. Others may not understand why you walk away from certain chances or why you hesitate where they would rush. But God is teaching you to value peace over pressure. When wealth comes from Him, it does not come with confusion. It does not demand compromise. It aligns with your spirit, even when it stretches your faith. If you find yourself more selective, more cautious, yet more confident in your decisions, that is not fear. That is wisdom being installed. God does not open wealth doors for the reckless. He opens them for the prepared. The fourth sign is deeply emotional and often misunderstood. God begins to heal your relationship with provision itself. Old wounds surface. Past struggles with lack, fear, or scarcity rise to the surface of your heart. Memories of loss, betrayal, or disappointment around money return, not to torment you, but to be healed. God will not release wealth into a heart that is still governed by fear. So He brings hidden beliefs into the light. He shows you where you have equated money with security, or loss with failure, or abundance with guilt. This healing process can feel intense. You may find yourself praying differently, thinking differently, even reacting differently when finances are discussed. God is reprogramming your inner language. He is teaching you that wealth is not your source. He is. Money is a tool, not a master. When this truth settles deep within you, fear loses its grip. Generosity becomes natural. Gratitude becomes constant. And wealth, when it comes, does not own you. If you notice that your anxiety around money is decreasing even before your income increases, that is a sign. God is aligning your heart so the blessing does not become a burden. The fifth sign often surprises people because it feels like delay rather than progress. God increases your responsibility before He increases your resources. He asks you to steward what you have with greater excellence. He draws your attention to details you once ignored. He calls you to faithfulness when no one is watching and the reward seems small. This is not God withholding wealth. This is God testing readiness. Wealth magnifies character. What you do with little is exactly what you will do with much. So God watches how you manage time, how you treat people, how you handle pressure, how you respond to inconvenience. During this phase, you may feel overlooked. You may wonder why your diligence is not immediately rewarded. But understand this, God is building trust between you and Him. He is proving to you that obedience is not transactional. When you remain faithful without guarantees, something shifts in the spiritual realm. Heaven responds to consistency. Doors open for those who can be trusted with what flows through them. If you sense a call to greater discipline, greater integrity, greater excellence right now, do not resist it. You are being prepared for rooms where carelessness would cost you everything. The sixth sign is quiet but undeniable. God begins to connect you with favor that cannot be explained. People appear who see value in you without knowing your full story. Opportunities surface that align with your gifts without you forcing them. Conversations open pathways. Timing works in your favor in ways that defy logic. This is not luck. This is orchestration. When God opens doors of wealth, He does not always announce it loudly. He weaves it seamlessly into your life so that when it arrives, you recognize His hand and not your own effort. This favor does not inflate ego. It humbles the soul. You become aware that you are being carried. That doors are opening because God is breathing on your path. And with that awareness comes reverence. You move carefully. You listen closely. You stay connected to the one who opened the way. If you notice alignment increasing, resistance decreasing, and peace accompanying opportunity, do not dismiss it. Thank God for it. Stay attentive. Favor is fragile when taken lightly, but unstoppable when honored. Now hear this deeply because it matters more than any sign. Wealth from God is never just about accumulation. It is about assignment. God opens doors of wealth to fulfill purpose, to bring restoration, to answer prayers you may never hear about. When He blesses you, He is thinking beyond you. That is why the process feels spiritual. That is why obedience matters more than strategy. That is why your heart is being refined before your hands are filled. If you are in a season where things feel like they are shifting beneath your feet, where clarity is increasing even as certainty feels distant, where faith is required more than comfort, you are not behind, you are being led. God is not late. He is precise. Every closed door, every internal stirring, every healed wound, every test of faithfulness is part of the architecture of abundance. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is accidental. Do not rush God and do not doubt Him. Stand still enough to listen, brave enough to move, and humble enough to obey. Wealth that comes from God carries peace with it. It strengthens rather than consumes. It expands rather than enslaves. And when it arrives, you will know it did not come because you chased it, but because you walked with the one who already had it prepared. Let your heart be steady. Let your faith be active. Let your hands remain open. The doors are not opening because you deserve them. They are opening because God is faithful. And what He has begun, He will complete in His time, in His way, for His purpose, and for your good. And now let your spirit settle into this truth, because what God is doing next is deeper than provision. It is transformation. There is a sacred shift that happens when God begins to open doors of wealth. And it is not always visible to the eye. He starts to teach you how to carry weight without losing wonder, how to hold abundance without hardening your heart, how to receive without forgetting who sustained you when there was nothing to receive. This is where many misunderstand the journey. They think wealth is the destination, but God knows it is the training ground. What He's building in you must outlast what He places around you. There will be moments when God intentionally slows the pace, even after doors begin to open. This is not resistance, it is protection. He is ensuring that your soul does not outrun your spirit. Sudden increase without spiritual anchoring creates instability. But when God increases you gradually, He strengthens your roots as your branches expand. You will notice that your prayers become less desperate and more discerning. You stop begging and start listening. You stop asking when and start asking, how should I steward what you are already entrusting to me? This is maturity, and maturity attracts trust. God also begins to redefine success in your heart. What once impressed you loses its shine. You are no longer moved by noise, appearances, or comparisons. You become grounded in purpose. You understand that wealth is not measured only by numbers, but by impact, peace, and obedience. This is when envy breaks its hold. You stop measuring your progress against others because you finally understand that God does not copy assignments. What He's building through you has a shape that only your obedience can fulfill. And when envy leaves, clarity enters. You see your path more clearly because you are no longer distracted by someone else's. As this clarity grows, God teaches you the power of restraint. He shows you that not every open door is your door, and not every increase is yours to take. Discernment deepens. You learn to wait even when you could act, to pause even when you have permission to move. This restraint is not weakness, it is strength under control. God entrusts wealth to those who know when to say no, because restraint preserves alignment. When your actions flow from obedience rather than urgency, your steps carry authority. There will also be moments when God asks you to sow without seeing immediate return. This is not about loss, it is about trust. God is teaching you that provision flows through you, not just to you. When you release what He asks you to release, even when it stretches you, something breaks in the spiritual realm. Fear loosens, control dissolves. Faith becomes active rather than theoretical. And God responds to active faith. He does not ignore obedience offered in silence. What you release in faith, He multiplies in ways you can not predict. At times, you may feel alone in this season, not isolated, but set apart. Conversations change, desires shift. You find it harder to explain what God is doing because it is still forming. This solitude is not abandonment, it is refinement. God often removes noise so you can hear direction. Wealth requires focus. Calling requires clarity. And clarity requires stillness. In this stillness, God speaks not in urgency but in assurance. He reminds you that you are not forgotten, not delayed, not overlooked. You are positioned. As doors continue to open, God will test your humility. Favor will increase, and so will visibility. This is where many stumble, but God is guarding you. He reminds you that everything you have is entrusted, not owned. Gratitude becomes your anchor. You remain teachable. You stay close to God. Not because you need something, but because you know who your source. When humility is intact, wealth becomes safe. It does not distort your identity. It strengthens it. You will also notice that resistance does not disappear, it changes form. Instead of external obstacles, you face internal choices. Will you remain obedient when compromise would be easier? Will you choose integrity when shortcuts appear? Will you honor God when success makes it tempting to rely on yourself? These moments matter more than any breakthrough. They determine whether doors remain open or quietly closed. God does not revoke blessings impulsively, but alignment must be maintained. Obedience is not a one-time decision. It is a posture, and then almost unexpectedly you realize that you are no longer asking if God will provide. You are asking how best to serve with what He has given. This is the clearest sign of all. When trust replaces fear, when stewardship replaces striving, when gratitude replaces anxiety, wealth has already arrived, whether or not the numbers have caught up yet. Because true wealth begins in the soul. And when the soul is anchored in God, the hands can safely receive. And as this journey unfolds, God begins to teach you something that cannot be learned. In comfort alone, how to remain anchored when momentum increases. Movement can be intoxicating if the heart is not grounded. Doors opening can create noise, attention, and options, but God does not want you driven by opportunity. He wants you led by conviction. So He whispers steadiness into your spirit. He teaches you to pause before reacting, to pray before deciding, to listen before speaking. This steadiness becomes your protection. It keeps you from scattering your strength and losing sight of why the doors opened in the first place. There will come a point when you realize that God is not just providing resources, He is shaping legacy. Wealth in His hands is never temporary, it is generational in impact. What He places within your reach is meant to outlive a single season. That is why He deepens your understanding of responsibility. You start to see how your choices ripple outward, how your obedience affects more than just your own life. This awareness does not burden you. It empowers you. You move with intention. You recognize that every decision is a seed, and seeds carry futures within them. God also refines how you respond to praise. When things go well, voices will affirm you, celebrate you, and attribute success to your effort. But God gently reminds you where strength truly comes from, not to diminish your diligence, but to keep your heart aligned. You learn to receive affirmation without absorbing pride. You acknowledge effort without worshiping results. This balance is rare, and God cultivates it carefully. A heart that remains thankful in success is a heart He continues to trust. At times, God will allow challenges to arise even after progress is evident. Do not be shaken by this. Resistance does not mean retreat. It often means confirmation. Opposition sharpens discernment, and strengthens resolve. God uses it to reveal where your confidence is rooted. When obstacles arise and you do not panic, when pressure comes and you do not retreat, you discover a new depth of faith within yourself. You realize that your peace is not circumstantial, it is anchored. An anchored faith carries authority. You may also find that your prayers change tone. They become less about asking for provision and more about asking for wisdom. Less about relief and more about alignment. You pray to understand God's heart, not just His hand. This shift marks intimacy. When you desire closeness more than outcome, you begin to move in rhythm rather than resistance. God honors this posture. He reveals direction with clarity because He knows you will fall, even when the path requires courage. In this season, God teaches you how to wait without weakening. Waiting does not mean inactivity, it means attentiveness. You remain engaged, disciplined, and ready, but not anxious. You learn to rest without losing momentum. This is spiritual strength. Many can move quickly, but few can wait well. Those who wait with faith are entrusted with more because they have proven that their confidence is not dependent on speed. God moves when timing aligns with purpose, not when pressure demands it. As your capacity increases, God sharpens your compassion. Wealth does not harden you, it softens you. You become more aware of others, more sensitive to needs, more willing to give quietly without recognition. This generosity is not performative, it is instinctive. God enlarges your heart alongside your influence so that what flows through you heals rather than harms. When generosity becomes natural, abundance becomes sustainable. Eventually, you will recognize a quiet confidence settling within you. Not arrogance, not self-reliance, but assurance. You trust God's guidance because you have seen His faithfulness. You move forward without fear because you know who goes before you. This confidence allows you to stand firm when uncertainty arises. You are nor swayed by every change or shaken by every delay. You have learned that God's timing is not random, it is intentional, and it always carries purpose. And in this place of assurance, God invites you deeper, not into striving, but into surrender. He reminds you that the greatest wealth is not what you hold, but who holds you. When your life reflects this truth, doors remain open, paths remain clear, and peace remains present. You walk forward not chasing blessings, but walking in obedience, knowing that where God leads, provision follows. And as you continue forward, God begins to reveal something even deeper: how to remain spiritually awake when blessing becomes normal. At first, breakthroughs feel overwhelming, almost unreal. But over time, what once felt miraculous can start to feel routine if the heart is not guarded. God teaches you to stay reverent even when provision becomes familiar. He keeps awe alive in you. He reminds you that every open door is still a miracle, every sustained moment still an act of grace. This awareness keeps gratitude fresh and worship sincere. A heart that remembers where it came from never loses its way. God also trains you to listen more than you speak. In seasons of increase, noise multiplies. Opinions surround you. Advice becomes constant. But God draws you inward, not to isolate you, but to refine your hearing. He teaches you to recognize His voice above all others. You begin to sense when to act quickly and when to wait patiently. You earn the difference between urgency and instruction. This discernment protects you from distraction. It keeps you from building on momentum alone and anchors you in divine direction. There will be moments when God asks you to choose obedience over explanation. You may not always understand why a door must remain closed longer or why a path must be taken slowly. But God is not obligated to explain every step. He is inviting trust. Faith deepens when you obey without full clarity. In these moments, something powerful happens within you. You stop needing constant confirmation. You rest in knowing that God sees the full picture even when you only see a fragment. This trust becomes strength. As your confidence in God grows, fear loses its authority. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of not having enough, these begin to loosen their grip. You realize that your security is not tied to a specific outcome, but to an unchanging source. When fear fades, boldness emerges. Not reckless boldness, but steady courage. You make decisions with peace. You take steps with assurance. You are no longer paralyzed by what could go wrong because you are anchored in who God is. God also begins to teach you the value of silence. Not every victory needs to be announced. Not every blessing needs to be displayed. There is power in quiet stewardship. God protects what is hidden. He allows some doors to open privately so that growth can happen without pressure. In silence, roots deepen. In stillness, STR, nth forms. You learn that the most meaningful progress often happens away from attention. And when God does elevate you publicly, it rests on a foundation that cannot be shaken. In this season, God reshapes your understanding of timing. You stop rushing outcomes and start respecting process. You realize that delay is not denial, and speed is not always favor. God moves with intention. He aligns circumstances, hearts, and purpose before releasing increase. This patience does not weaken you. It steadies you. You become comfortable moving at God's pace, even when it differs from your expectation. This alignment brings peace that cannot be manufactured. You may also notice that your sense of purpose sharpens. You feel drawn to things that carry meaning rather than mere reward. God awakens compassion, vision, and responsibility within you. You see needs more clearly and feel stirred to respond. This is not pressure, it is calling. Wealth becomes a means to serve rather than a goal to chase. When purpose leads, provision follows naturally. God entrusts resources to those who understand why they exist. And through it all, God continues to remind you that dependence is not weakness. Even in abundance, you remain connected to Him. You pray not out of desperation, but out of devotion. You seek His presence not because you lack, but because you love. This intimacy keeps your spirit alive. It ensures that success never replaces surrender. When dependence remains, pride cannot take root. Eventually, you reach a place of deep peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you are aligned. You trust God's hand in both abundance and uncertainty. You move forward without striving, confident without arrogance, hopeful without anxiety. You understand now that wealth was never the promise, it was part of the process. The true gift was transformation, a heart strengthened, a spirit awakened, a life aligned with divine purpose. And now, as the journey deepens, God invites you into a higher awareness of stewardship that goes beyond possessions and reaches into identity. He teaches you that wealth is not only what passes through your hands, but what shapes your decisions, your priorities, your inner posture. You begin to notice how carefully God guards your heart. He does not rush you into overflow without first anchoring you in humility. He knows that what grows around you must never outgrow what governs within you. This is why He continues to refine your motives, not to restrict you, but to protect the purity of what He is building. There comes a moment when you realize that God is teaching you how to carry authority without becoming heavy. Authority rooted in Him is calm, not forceful. It does not demand attention. It commands respect through consistency. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself or justify your path. Your confidence is quiet but immovable. You understand that when God establishes something, it does not require constant defense. Its awareness frees you from striving and allows you to move with grace even in environments that once felt intimidating. God also begins to show you the sacredness of alignment. When your thoughts, actions, and intentions move in harmony with His direction, resistance loses its power. Begin to line up not because life becomes effortless, but because you are no longer fighting what God is forming. Alignment brings clarity. It sharpens focus. You stop scattering your energy and start investing it wisely. This is where effectiveness multiplies. Not because you are doing more, but because you are doing what matters. In this season, God trains you to recognize the difference between pressure and purpose. Pressure demands immediate action and feeds anxiety. Purpose invites patience and strengthens resolve. You learn to wait without frustration and to move without fear. This discernment becomes a compass. It keeps you from reacting emotionally and helps you respond spiritually. When you move from purpose rather than pressure, your steps carry weight and your decisions bear fruit. God also deepens your resilience. He allows you to experience moments where outcomes are uncertain, even as progress is evident. These moments are not setbacks, they are strengthening points. Resilience grows when faith is exercised under tension. You learn that you do not collapse under uncertainty, you rise with trust. Each challenge you overcome reinforces a truth within you. God is steady even when circumstances fluctuate. This truth becomes unshakable. As your resilience strengthens, your vision broadens. You begin to see beyond immediate gain and into long-term impact. God expands your perspective so that you no longer ask only what is beneficial, but what is meaningful. This shift changes how you plan, how you give, how you build. You become intentional. You understand that what lasts requires wisdom, patience, and faithfulness. God entrusts lasting influence to those who think beyond the moment. There's also a refinement in how you experience joy. It becomes deeper, quieter, more grounded. Joy is no longer tied to outcomes alone. It is rooted in alignment with God. You can celebrate progress without becoming dependent on it. You can experience peace even when answers are still unfolding. This joy strengthens you. It keeps your spirit light and your heart open. And a heart anchored in joy is resilient in every season. God continues to teach you how to remain teachable. No matter how far you progress, He keeps you attentive. You remain aware that growth is ongoing, that learning never ends. This humility keeps your spirit flexible and responsive. God pours wisdom into hearts that remain open. When you are willing to learn, you remain capable of adapting without losing direction. This adaptability ensures that you remain effective even as seasons change. And then, quietly, without announcement, you realize that fear no longer has authority over your decisions. It may attempt to whisper, but it no longer leads. Faith has taken its place. Not blind faith, but tested faith, faith proven through experience. You trust God not because you have heard about His faithfulness, but because you have lived it. This trust steadies you when choices carry weight and decisions carry consequence. As you stand in this place, God reminds you that the journey is ongoing. He does not reveal everything at once because growth happens in stages. Each season builds upon the last. Each lesson prepares you for the next responsibility. You do not need to see the entire path to walk faithfully. You only need to stay attentive to the step in front of you. God honors those who walk forward with trust rather than certainty. So remain grounded, remain open, remain faithful. What God has begun is not fragile. It is rooted, intentional, and guided by His wisdom. The doors He opens are sustained by His presence. And as you continue forward, you will not only recognize His provision, you will reflect His faithfulness. Your life will speak without words. Your journey will testify without explanation. And in every season, through every shift, your path will continue to unfold under the steady, sovereign guidance of God. And now, let this word settle deep within you as a final sealing of what God has been unfolding. This is not an ending, it is a commissioning of the heart. God is not merely leading you into a season of increase. He is anchoring you into a lifelong posture of trust, obedience, and reverence. What He has shaped in you through waiting, refinement, and surrender will outlast any season of abundance. The doors He opens will not confuse you, intimidate you, or consume you, because your foundation is no longer built on outcome, but on alignment with Him. Carry this understanding with you. Nothing God gives you is meant to replace Him. Every blessing is an invitation to draw closer, not drift away. Every open door is a reminder that He goes before you and remains behind you, surrounding your steps with intention. When wealth flows, let gratitude lead. When responsibility increases, let humility remain. When influence expands, let obedience guide. God does not measure success the way the world does. He measures it by faithfulness of heart. There will be days ahead when you look back and realize how carefully God protected you from what you once prayed for too soon. You will see how delay saved you, how silence trained you, how closed doors preserved you. And in that understanding, worship will rise naturally, not forced, not performative, but genuine. You will thank God not only for what He gave, but for who He made you up. You waited. Stand confident in this truth. You are not stepping into uncertainty. You are stepping into divine order. What God has ordained cannot unravel. What He has aligned cannot collapse. The same hand that sustained you in hidden seasons will sustain you in visible ones. You are not walking alone. And you are not walking blindly. Every step forward is guided, every pause is purposeful, every transition is covered by His wisdom. So move forward with peace in your spirit and clarity in your heart. Do not rush what God is unfolding. Do not fear what you cannot yet see. Remain faithful in the small moments, attentive in the quiet ones, and courageous when obedience requires trust. God is not finished writing your story. What lies ahead will not only bless you, it will reveal His faithfulness in ways that will mark you forever. Let your life remain a reflection of His guidance. Let your success remain rooted in surrender. Let your abundance remain governed by purpose. And as you walk through every door He opens, may your spirit stay anchored, your heart stay pure, and your faith stay alive, because the greatest testimony of all is not what you gain, but how fully your life declared. The goodness, sovereignty, and unfailing presence of God